Okay, so today is Go Math Lesson 5-6, and we're wrapping up Unit 5. So the focus that we have right now is how to find a percentage of a number. Or when I have a number and I have a percentage, I need to find out what the original number was. So for example, we're going to look and say 12 is 60% of what number? So what I want to focus on really is that a percentage is a number out of 100, but it's also a part of a whole. So for example, my whole being 100, so if I have 60%, I say, what is my percentage? That is 60 hundredths, and that's going to be equal to some number, right? So I need a total. Well, I ask myself, 12 is 60%. They're on the same level. So 12 is the part, and I need to find out what the whole would be. So I can't easily multiply anything by 60 to get 12. I could divide, but we're not going that route. What I want to do is simplify my percent. So if I take 60 hundredths, and let's divide them both by 10. Divide by 10, divide by 10, and I get 6 tenths. Now, this is something I can work with to get me to 12. So 6 would multiply times 2 to get to 12. And if I multiply the top by 2, I have to multiply the bottom by 2, and then I find my answer to be 20. And I can go back and I can check my work. I can take my calculator and I can say, well, 60% of 20, maybe you'll try it as a decimal, right? So 60% times 20, 0 times 0, 2 times 0, 2 times 6, and I get 2 digits there, 2 digits there. That's a 0, not a 2. And I find out that 12. I've checked my work. I've verified. Okay, so what does that look like as a question in your book? So, if I didn't have my downloads in the way here, if Emily sent 28 text messages so far this week, and that's 20% of the total number of text messages she's allowed, what is the total number of text messages she can send in 1 week? So, what I would end up with here is I can make myself an equivalent fraction. Now, there are other methods that we can do. We talked about cross-multiplying and then dividing, but today we're just going to stick with an equivalent fraction. So, I look at my percentage, right? 20%, and percent literally means over 100. You've heard it in almost every single video we've done here. 20%, and I know that she has sent 28 text messages, and 28 is 20% of the total. So 28 is 20%, they're on the same level. So I need to find out what the total was. Now if I were to substitute that for x, we could turn this into an algebraic expression, but we're not quite getting there yet. And I don't know what I can multiply 20 by to get 28. Off the top of my head, probably something like 1.4, but I'm not entirely sure, so I'm going to divide by 20, because the greatest common factor, there we go all the way back to Unit 1, greatest common factor of 20 and 100 is 20. So when I simplify that, I end up with 1/5. All right, so 1/5. Now, how do I go from 1 to 28? Well, times 28, and that's going to take me all the way back there. So whatever I do to the top, I do to the bottom. 5 times 28. 5 times 8 is 40. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 4 is 14. And I end up with 140 as my answer. So again, I'm asking myself, I have a percentage of some number I don't know, and then I know what that percentage is equal. So what can I do to solve that? Well, I can set it up as an equivalent fraction, and I could simplify, maybe even down to a unit rate. So we're going all the way back to Unit 2, Unit 1, and then multiply it up to get an equivalency. So it really just doesn't matter if I want to do it as a fraction or if I want to do it as a decimal, but I'm asking myself, what are these numbers and how do they relate to the percentage I'm trying to find? So once you know that, you can set up your problem and simplify and solve.